Welcome to Surrogacy Talk with me, your fabulous host and family building expert, Frank Golden. I'll be talking about surrogacy, IVF, and making babies. Hello, everyone. I am joined by Erica Daybook. Good morning, Erica.
Good morning, Frank.
So thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. Our topic today, we are going to discuss for intended parents who wish to pursue a second journey through surrogacy. And Erica has a bunch of fabulous questions because I've been through multiple journeys myself. So hopefully I can provide some insight. And I think there's some really good material here for everyone.
I agree. So let's first discuss when intended parents maybe want to start thinking about this, or how they can come to the decision that they're ready to start thinking about a second journey.
So that's a really great question. And there's a few different factors. So the first factor, which is something that intended parents can't really change, is the requirements with the fertility clinic. So if they plan on using the same surrogate as they had during their first journey, typically the reproductive endocrinologist will require that the surrogate be at least 12 months post-delivery so that her body has had time to recover. A lot of doctors actually think you should have even more time to recover. So 12 months is kind of the minimum. If that ends up being the case, then we'll start re-onboarding that candidate, usually around the 6th or 7 month marker, to collect all of her most recent records and then all of her redo the psychological evaluation, all of that in preparation of an embryo transfer. So those are kind of like the hardline requirements, medically speaking. But then intended parents also have a few other things to consider. What is the age difference that they would like their children to be? So, some intended parents, right out of the gate, they try for twins because they want two exactly the same age, and they figure, well, how hard can it be if I never raised a singleton? How am I going to know that twins was harder? So I'll just raise both at the same time and get it out of the way. Okay, that's one train of thought. The other train of thought is go through one first, make sure you can do the job, right? Make sure that you have what it takes to be a parent and that you could learn everything first.
Yep.
You have like that experimental phase of parenting where it's like, okay. And then maybe wait a couple of years so that you have at least the first one out of diapers, and then you have a helping hand for the newborn. So that's kind of, in talking with many intended parents and just parents in general who have had multiple children, I've always been told that kind of like that 3 or 4 year age difference is good, because then you do have one that's like about to start kindergarten who can be very helpful around the house. And then you've got, a newborn or toddler, and they can kind of help out with that.
Definitely.
So
I also think that, so my parents waited about 5 years and they loved it because my sister was literally a little helper. She was at the point where she remembers me being born, so that meant a lot to her. And she was instantly like this almost additional little mommy figure. She wanted to unfortunately play house with me as the baby doll, and didn't always work out, but she loved it, and it was a memory, and we were still very, very close. But also in a surrogacy journey, when your child, and you can attest to this for sure, going through a journey and with a very young child that you're still adjusting to is a lot to juggle, and a job probably.
It
and
is
a relationship.
It is. It's not like just having a child naturally. You're
Right.
having to do it through surrogacy in this instance. And so a surrogacy journey has its own set of unique circumstances and stress factors, especially if you aren't fortunate enough to be able to have the same surrogate on your journey, and you
Right.
have to be completely, rematched with a whole new surrogate. Now you are bringing in a different emotional aspect because you have to learn this whole new person and build rapport with an entirely new person and her family. And so that's really time consuming, and it's really stressful and just mentally challenging. And then to your point, if you have a full-time career and then you already have a child, and it's just a lot. It's a lot for intended parents to go through.
Right. And so we're not saying like not to have a kid right away. That's totally on you. It's just something to consider, because I think the excitement of a first journey is just so overwhelming. And then that added pressure of actually having another child, and you can talk about that had to have changed your second journey compared to your first journey. Just having Sophia in the mix was probably a entirely different experience.
It really does. You know, we initially wanted a 2-year age gap, so we tried a little sooner. And you know, as those out there who have listened to other podcasts know, it didn't work the second journey. But now looking back at everything, I'm kind of glad that we have the 4-year, almost 5-year age gap, because Sophia is completely self-sufficient and
Yep.
she's just amazing. She starts kindergarten this fall and she is just
Wow.
such a great helper, and she'll follow Silas around the house because he's 2 now, so he's up and walking and going all over the place. So he's 2 and she'll be 6 in October. And so she's just phenomenal. She follows him around. If he starts doing something maybe he shouldn't, like climbing on the back of the couch, walking on the back of the couch, which is scary, she'll say, "Oh no, Silas, get down," and she'll come find Adam or I. She's just really, it's great. It's great having that age gap. So
Right. And I've met Sophia many times, and I know how much she appreciates being a big sister. So she's getting this like really great experience of watching her little brother grow, which is always cool. I'm a little sister, so I missed out on that.
And I think similar to your situation, she, I think she'll remember
Oh yeah.
when we brought him home from the hospital that day, because she was already 3.5. So she's going to have those memories. So that's amazing. We're really excited for her.
Most definitely. After this advice, intended parents still feel like, hey, you know what? I do want that 1.5, 2-year age difference, which again is totally fine. When should they start thinking about this? Should they start their second journey while they're still completing their first journey? So if they're not using the same surrogate, or even if they are, when should they really start thinking about this if they want another child immediately?
That's a great question. So if you are in the midst of your first journey and your surrogate is already in her 3rd trimester, so she's very close to giving birth, and you know that, currently it can take anywhere from 9 to 12 months to find the right surrogate, especially if you're not going to be able to utilize your same surrogate for your next journey. You may want to start that second journey sometime in that 3rd trimester to start the search, if that's your
Sure.
plan, to have an immediate journey following, or obviously have a very frank discussion with your current surrogate about, in 12 months post-delivery, after she's recovered, if the delivery goes well, and, where she kind of, what she's thinking about maybe a second journey. And be open-minded, because after delivery, things can change for her. She may change her mind, so I wouldn't,
Right.
bank everything on that, but have that open and honest dialogue. So it's really important for you as an intended parent and as a couple to have that discussion with your significant other, and then, bring the surrogacy agency in to the conversation to find out about potential surrogate match times. Again, if you can't utilize your same surrogate, talk to your reproductive endocrinologist to find out what their kind of restrictions and limitations are in terms of when they would want you to start another journey, because some REs want you to have at least a year. They do want you to go home with your first baby and
Right.
have that period of raising your first. So some clinics impose limitations too. So I would say bring everyone into the mix, have that open and honest dialogue, and then take a partner with your agency and come up with a really good timeline that fits not only your expectations and goals, but those of the medical professionals too, what they're telling you.
Definitely. And I think also, if a set of intended parents don't have embryos left, but they want to go through a second journey, then move on that just as fast. Either I know Frank and Adam used the same egg donor, and she was courteous enough to reach out and let you know that she's ready to start the second half of her family. And if you wanted eggs, you should come get them. They're up for grabs.
Yeah, I mean, she was amazing. So, as a lot of people know, we didn't have a bunch of surplus embryos at the end of
Right.
our first journey, and then the 2 that we had left didn't work out, and we kind of looped her in. And you're right, she was courteous and generous enough to reach out and say, I'm beginning my second journey, so to speak, to become a parent the second time, because she had already had a daughter. And this is what my husband and I are thinking. So if you would like me to undergo a second retrieval, now would be the time. And Adam and I, we weren't really even thinking about it at the time. We were just kind of on a hiatus, just kind of, letting things settle down. And then she reached out and we were like, okay, great. Let's get the ball rolling. So you're right. If you're a couple out there who you've gone through your first journey and maybe you don't have any embryos left, or you've got a very small supply of embryos left and you're considering, a second egg retrieval, more embryos, then that adds an additional factor of time in your timeline. So you
Right.
need to then step back and then reevaluate that situation as well. So you have to take that into consideration if that ends up being your circumstance too.
Exactly. So let's talk a little bit about expectations. Intended parents, we know they have overall in general have great experiences with surrogacy. They have a healthy baby, and it's wonderful. Bringing those same expectations into a second journey, though, it's kind of challenging because every pregnancy is different, every surrogate's different. If you choose to go with a different agency, it's going to be a different experience. So maybe you want to talk about your personal experience with the different expectations going. You've been through, I want to say, like 2.5 journeys, really. Unfortunately, your second journey wasn't successful, and then you were able to go on a third journey, and now you've Silas. So I would imagine every single one was different than the last, and maybe you can just go through that.
It is, and this is a really great topic because we often receive inquiries from intended parents who are returning to us because they would like to embark on a second journey, or intended parents coming to us from a completely different agency. And one of the things I always let everyone know during the consultation, the initial consultation, is that it's great to know all the steps of the surrogacy process. That's great. You have it under your belt. You know that we do, the onboarding, the matching, the screening, the legal, the
all that
everything,
big stuff.
all the big stuff. You know them. But you really have to take everything that you knew about your previous surrogate, if you are someone who needed to be rematched with a new surrogate, and you really have to wipe the slate clean. Because oftentimes intended parents will, rejoin the process for their second journey, and they are holding that second surrogate to the same expectations as the first one. Or I should say, the expectations are great because we want really great surrogates, but you can't compare apples to apples because, to your point, everyone is different. Different personalities, different backgrounds, different home life. So you really kind of have to, in your mind, wipe the slate clean and say, okay, this is a completely different person.
Right.
I can't compare them to surrogate A because this is surrogate B, and she's completely different as an individual and as a family person and as a mother. So
it's like meeting someone new and starting a new long-term relationship. And comparing them to your old partner is just tragic. It's a great way to cause a bad relationship.
Yes.
You're with the new person for whatever reason it is. It's what's meant to be at the time. And it's the same thing with a surrogate. It's a new relationship. They're going to be just as qualified, but like you said, just different people. You know?
And what we also come across is intended parents that they'll ask, well, can our previous surrogate have a conversation with our new surrogate?
Wow.
Just to kind of like fill
That's
her in
interesting.
and maybe educate her a little bit about, who we are as a couple. And then they also appreciate the perspective of their
Sure.
previous surrogate on this new candidate. They just like to kind of pick her brain and find out, what do you think, kind of a thing. And I'm really indifferent. I don't say, oh, that's a bad idea or that's a great idea. I think if you had that much faith and confidence and you built
That's
up such a
awesome.
great relationship with your first surrogate that you would go to her for advice on your second match, that's great. But to your point previously, you really do have to know and have the expectation that it's a completely different person. You're not going to find an identical twin of your previous surrogate. And so you have to know that going into it.
Exactly. And that the pregnancy might be different, not that you should expect complications, but if the first one went great and the second one isn't as smooth, that's just the way it works sometimes.
That's a great point as well. Every pregnancy is different. Your first journey, maybe nothing went wrong, which is great. We want
Awesome.
that to be the scenario. But maybe on your second journey, the surrogate was, maybe she had a more intense, pregnancy sickness in the beginning, or she was just more lethargic and tired and she just reacted to the medication differently or whatever. Things like that can happen. It's not, you shouldn't take it personally. You shouldn't, think that, oh, your second journey is going horribly wrong because everything wasn't perfect to a T like the first one. It's just a surrogacy journey is unpredictable, but a pregnancy in and of itself is just can be completely different from even person to person, or even, we talk with surrogates who experience surrogates who have had 2 or 3 of their own children and then they're on their second journey, and they're like, wow, this pregnancy is completely different from anything I've experienced. So even with the same person, a pregnancy can vary greatly.
Totally.
So.
Completely. So that's important for intended parents to know that things are just different journey to journey. And also to keep in mind, like financially, what's the range you give intended parents? How much? Let's do a recap.
So intended parents going through their first journey, right? Like creating embryos from scratch, the egg retrieval part, the IVF, the legal, the surrogate, everything. Now we're estimating is on average anywhere from 140 to 150,000.
Got it.
Just because of all of the increased base compensations with surrogates, clinical fees are going up. Just that's basically what we're seeing.
The industry is changing. Oh, totally.
If you already have embryos created on ice, ready to go, you're not repaying all of those clinical medical fees. So then intended parents usually spend about $100,000.
Okay.
Because you still have surrogate base compensation, you're funding your escrow with an additional buffer, your agency fee again. You still have to write legal contracts. So there's still a lot of money that goes into it, but it's not the full fee all over again.
So it's like an assumption that your second journey may cost less. But again, going in with that expectation, you might be disappointed. You might come across issues, higher travel expenses, whatever may vary from your first journey to your second journey, that it may end up being the same. Maybe the second journey costs a little bit more. I mean, don't go in there assuming it's going to be less because half the job has been done, That
is a really great point.
And so be financially prepared is what I'm saying.
Be prepared, and also know that if you had first journey, first embryo transfer success during your first journey, that's great. That's what we want to see.
Of course.
But that's not always the case. So then on your second journey, if the embryo transfer isn't a success the first time and you have to do a subsequent transfer, to your point, that causes an increase in costs. So your surrogate has to travel to the clinic again if there's lost wages, the medication fees. So things can add up. So don't always think that just because it worked perfectly well the first time, it's going to work that way the second time. That isn't always the case. We hope it is, knock on wood,
right.
but you have to be cognizant of the fact and have a very realistic expectation for your second journey.
Right. Just be like financially ready to put in just as much money, if not more. So
correct.
We don't want anyone to come into a journey and worry about, their financial situation. We want them to worry about having a healthy baby and enjoying the process. So this has all been super informative. Let's go into how Golden Surrogacy, how we handle a second journey. And have we had intended parents join us for a second journey or thinking about second journeys, and kind of how does Golden approach a second journey with an intended parent?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when we founded the agency, initially I was thinking, repeat business would be, very minimal because people would go through the process, have their baby and be done, and it's really expensive anyway. What we're finding though is like 20 to 30% of our clients now are coming back because, and I think, a large portion of that has to do with the fact that single embryo transfers are the gold standard now because we want to minimize the risk of all the complications that can occur with a twin gestation. And it's just the best way to go, especially if you're utilizing genetically tested embryos. Why, put your surrogate through that and potentially have catastrophic outcomes for your baby, right? Or babies. So single embryo transfers definitely on the rise. And so everyone starts their journey knowing that they're going to, hopefully have one healthy baby, and then they already start thinking about journey number 2.
Sure.
So we're seeing a lot of intended parents come back to start their second journeys, and that's really exciting. If they're able to use the same surrogate, we'll go ahead and provide a discount off of our agency fee. So we usually take a look at what it costs us to recruit a surrogate, and we'll deduct that from the fee. I don't want to give any numbers on this podcast right now because the fee may be different when you are listening to the podcast than from when it is right now.
Exactly.
So, but definitely inquire if you're a second-time intended parent and you're utilizing your same surrogate. There is a discount available for you because we don't have to go out and find her. We've already found her the first time.
That's a huge part, and we know from experience finding qualified, candidates to be surrogates is a challenge. So that's good to know. So
it is.
There's a slight discount for that.
Yep, there certainly is. And we welcome you back to our agency. And then what you can expect is the same great service that you had on your first journey. We don't look at you as, oh, we've got this in the bag. You've already been through us before,
Right.
and we just kind of put you on the back burner. Not the case. We treat everyone the same with great service. You're going to have a great experience even on your second journey because we know that we get the honor of helping you complete your family. Not only
Yeah.
do we have the honor of helping you start your family, but now we get to help you. It comes full circle. We get to help you complete your family. So it's an honor and a privilege to be able to manage those journeys again. We welcome you back to our agency if you had a great experience, which we know you did because I'm in charge. So that's really kind of how we handle it. We still go through, we would request all of the medical records from your surrogate's most recent delivery with your journey. We still have to go through all of that same vetting process, make sure nothing has changed in her health history.
She has to be approved again at the IVF clinics. I mean, it is another process.
Exactly. It's not a automatic for sure thing. We still want to make sure that she is medically sound and able to move forward. Because again, we want you to have the best possible chance for success, and we're looking out for her health too. Is this a candidate that should be pregnant again and go through an entirely, second delivery for you? Because she's already had her own children and one for you already, and now this is yet again another delivery. So we just want to make sure that everyone is healthy and able to go through the process and be the most successful as possible.
And there have been surrogates, I know, in my experience here, that have really wanted to go through another journey with our agency, but unfortunately just they've had one too many pregnancies, which I believe would be over 4.
Correct.
Or her age, has increased, and now it's outside of our requirements. So that does happen, unfortunately, but
it does, and we thank them for wanting to come back.
It's always sad letting them down.
It is, but again, we want to do what's right by all parties. So, that's kind of how Golden handles it. We welcome you
still
back.
Walk them through everything as if they don't know.
Yep.
You just again treat them like somebody who hasn't been through a journey, which is really reassuring, I'm sure. Maybe even a little annoying because I know this, Frank, but you're like, well, I'm just going to tell you again because...
It's funny you should mention that because we have second-time surrogates through our program all the time, and we still do the preparatory match call leading up to a match or what to expect going into the clinic, and they're like... I don't need to do that. I've done it before. I know. They're kind of like, got their shoulders up like, I know what I'm doing. I got this. And we're like... We know, but still, it's our job. We just want to make sure that you're supported and you have all of the most recent, relevant facts for this journey. And so that's kind of funny. But they're like our professional surrogates. They know what's going on.
Exactly.
But we still do everything to make them feel supported and educated. So
I guess Golden just provides that extra support no matter what. So just if you sign with us, deal with it.
Absolutely.
So any extra advice, Frank, for, being not only an agency owner? I mean, you have tons of experience on this topic. I mean, you're an agency owner that's helping people through their second journey. You're helping surrogates through their second journeys. And then you've been through multiple journeys on your own, resulting in 2 beautiful children. Silas just turned 2 in July. So that's pretty cool. So any additional advice or suggestions for managing your emotions or... let's just pick your brain for a minute.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say overall approach your second journey with a very, obviously be optimistic and be excited. You're starting a second journey. You're completing your family, but just be realistic about your own expectations internally. Know that. You may or may not have the same surrogate. It might be different emotionally, a completely different personality to manage and, become accustomed to. The geographics may change. On your first journey, you might have had someone local, and then on your second journey, you might have someone a couple states away. So those things can also change. So just approach things with, a cautiously optimistic approach, I guess you could say, and know that factors, may or may not have changed. And have that, just be cognizant of all of those facts. And I think as long as you go into your second journey knowing all of the different variables and things that could very well have changed, I think you're not approaching it in such a way that you're setting yourself up for failure internally and mentally. So, and if you need advice, that's what I'm here for. Even if you're not a client of mine, but you're out there and you've heard this podcast, give me a call. You're right, Erica. I've been through, a lot of different stuff with surrogacy, for my own journeys, and so I've got that insight if you need advice how to approach a situation.
You've had some really challenging journeys, failed transfers, You had a very hard time conceiving Silas. And I think that the failures in life or the challenges in life is what teaches you the most. So you really get what it's like to be the father of 2 children. So at the end, it was great. So you can always appreciate that joy that intended parents feel, but also the struggles that you might go through, or the excitement of going through a second journey. I mean, I think that's awesome. I value the insight just because of literally all the things that you've been through throughout your journeys. You know, there's other podcasts about that. Feel free to listen, but Frank is always very candid about sharing his personal experience about, again, all the topics we discussed.
And I'm thankful for it. You know, in the moment, I definitely wasn't thankful for it.
Oh my
but
gosh.
now, you know, as a agency owner, I have all of that perspective, and
Exactly.
and that's why I'm thankful for it, because when someone comes to me who says they've been through years of struggle, and you know, I get it. I understand how sad it can be for a person.
Yeah.
So
You can actually say, I understand.
I understand.
And mean it,
mm-hmm.
which is valuable.
But yeah, you know, on a positive note, just approach your second journey again, like I said, with you know, positive vibes. Be cautiously optimistic. Know what can change for your second journey, and just have those expectations to be more realistic, I guess you could say. But when you're ready, we are here for you. Even if you weren't an intended parent on your first journey through Golden Surrogacy, if you didn't have a great experience with your last journey at whatever agency you were at, or, you know, a lot of intended parents, they managed their own first journey and it was really hectic for them. We've got intended parents that were like, you know, it all ended well. We ended up with a baby, but it was just way too stressful. For the second journey, we want you to manage it for us. Come to Golden. We will take care of you. We will be more than happy to help you complete your family. We're here for you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for that insight, Frank. I hope that everyone got something awesome from this. And if you're ready to start your second journey, congratulations. That's a huge step.
Absolutely. So thank you everyone out there for listening. You can follow us on our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at Golden Surrogacy, except Instagram. It's at Golden _ Surrogacy.
There you go. Yep.
Thank you everyone. And until next time, this is Frank Golden reminding you that everyone deserves a family.